Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is actually taping up the glass on the window and all my rubbers. Inside here is a rubber between the glass, and depending how far back it is, whether you can tape it or not. Sometimes they come down at 45 degrees and you would have to cover it then. If it's going and it's tucked in, I'd always just spray the rubber. What you want to try and do though is when you spray the window, you don't want to get it right against the rubber. I'd always leave a tiny little line between the glass and the rubber, so I leave it on there once I've finished and just leave a nice straight line of paint on there. You can scrape it off, but I think if you start chipping into it sometimes, you actually damage the rubber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape. So what you want to do is just overlap it slightly onto that side. Use a scraper, just push in and tuck that right into that inside underneath that edge. And then what you want to do then is actually when you start taping, is actually just start pushing that edge down underneath the best you can. So as you come through, see how I've got that tape nice and flat to that edge. And what I'm doing is just adjusting it with my 2 fingers, pushing it down as I go. When I get to so far away, what I'll do is I'll just measure out, rip it off, so I haven't got the roll in my hand anymore, and now I can manipulate it a lot better underneath that edge. Taking my scraper, putting back my tape and tucking it underneath. And you want to try and keep this in one line, because if you don't, you'll have joins you'll see in the paintwork on the finish. So you really want to try and keep it in one. So overlapping, get my first bit in first, tucking it in like so with my scraper, and then carrying on through. Okay, so what I want to do now is carry on, but I don't want to take off too much at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a little bit at a time and push it down nice and firmly. So I would say probably about 2 or 3 inches at a time, because the last thing you want to do is put off absolutely loads of tape and then have too much in your hand. When I get about 5 inches from the end, what I'll do is I'll just take like so, rip it off again, so you've got nothing in your hand there, and I'll start edging it underneath as I go. One thing I suggest as well when you're working is to be able to see what you're taping. So move the window around when you're doing it. Don't like do here and be upside down looking at it, and turn the window around so you can actually properly see it. So all I'm doing as well is using my caulking tool. These are absolutely brilliant. I don't even use them for caulk, I think they're rubbish. But for this, they're absolutely fantastic. Just using that, that's really getting underneath that lip as I'm coming down, and pushing it really firmly in as I come around the corner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn the window around like I just said, and make sure I can actually get to that edge there, because there's no point trying to do it upside down. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is actually make my cuts where the tape is. And you want to make sure you've got yourself a decent blade. This is the Alpha Graphic Slimline knife. And I'll put a link down below where to get it from. They do not scratch the glass. As you can see, I have so many who will go, oh my God, that's scratching the glass. No, it's not. When you cut all these bits, I always cut a new blade off there, so you just snap it off the end there. So back of the knife, back into there, so you'll see the groove. That's how you cut your new blade. So you'll get so many sections on the blade to cut, but I always say, when you're doing any cuts like this around the window, start with a new blade. This will probably do all 4 cuts. So if I cut it in there and in there, you'll lose the edge around the glass. So what you want to be doing is going directly in the corner. What I do is push it in as far as I can get it, and you pull back from corner to corner. And you haven't got to push too hard. Like I said, you are cutting on the tape, so it's not going to go to the glass. And like I said, that blade does not cut the glass. So what I do is I always pull my top one off first. And I keep that corner, and I'll show you why in a minute. So what I do then is I pull my top one down, and what I do is I come off towards, and see that still joint there. So all I'm going to do is take my blade and just snip that off the end. There we go. So I take it off the plastic first, I roll it towards the corner, and it's behind itself. So now I roll around the back look, and then I keep that corner there. And then what I'll do is I'll feather that down into that corner using my caulking tool to push it right in. And then what's going to happen there is I'm going to have a continuous line all the way around my glass. Sometimes when you cut it, you can end up with a slight gap there. So those corners that you've just used on the cut, and we're just going to go straight in there like so and just fill in that void. And I'm going to do that now on all 4 corners. So if you notice here as well, there is vents. So these ones, as soon as I took them out, they actually broke the clips. So I would say if you've got windows with vents in, then I would always leave them on if they're on clips. If they're on screws, I will then take them out of screws. I find that the clips, when you take them off, they can snap so easy. So the ones that have got screws each side, just pop them off and spray them on the board. But a window like this that was on clips, as soon as I took it out, it snapped the clip. And yeah, it's just a nightmare. So it's just easier to just spray them in sometimes. And just sometimes I just slide them around a bit to get each side of the clip. In general, if they're on clips, leave them in and spray them in situ. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is actually tape the glass up. So what I want to do is actually measure out the distance that I need. Instead of putting it on the glass like that, and I'm going to avoid the glass with the blade now. So I'm going to just put my thumb there, measure till the other side, like so. Rip it off. And I'm going to stick that, and as you can see now, I've gone around with my red and again back over my multi-purpose. So you'll see there's quite a bit of glass still showing there, so I don't want to put the multi-purpose tape all over it. The reason is for that is because if I start leathering this all over the window, it'll leave a lot of residues and glue behind. So what I'm going to be doing is using the red Ciret, followed by my multi-purpose.